Kraken is much more not just like internal ecosystem, and it can be like the place for new localization technology, and we will cover the most crucial thing for business, for connected business needs and localization needs. And we will speak about the outcomes, about the raw ROAS, about the LTV of localization, and how we exactly build this in Kraken ecosystem. Yes, traveling with my guitar. I will just spend all of my time doing some kind of different things with my guitar.
What I'll touch on is how we built our platform, our internal platform, we call it Mod Insight, to basically analyze feedback from users at scale in a way that we couldn't do before. Okay, I'm Priscila Mottola. I'm the Director of Language Quality at KnowBe4. We're a digital workforce security platform, and my team does all of the quality assurance testing for localized content into more than 35 languages. I think people should not miss my session because I will bring some insights into how to use GenAI in a different way, not just to translate, to execute translation, but to build a quality program that relies on user insights and to leverage GenAI in different ways, different perspectives that still bring a lot of value to the business.
Hello, I'm Gergana Toleva and I'm from One Stop Asia.
Hello, I'm Sebastian Ciesielski, and together with Stefan, we are going to show you how you can automate your workflows with N8N.
I'm here with GenAI in localization to present how we can level technology and all its capabilities in our in-house teams and also with whatever else we can do. So don't miss our workshop together with Sebastian and Stefan.
Is it good enough?
That's perfect.
POEditor is a TMS for teams building software for global audiences. The problem it solves is that localization can get messy really fast without the right infrastructure. So we offer teams a workspace for collaboration that feels natural for them and that plugs in to the ecosystem they are already using. For example, GitHub, GitLab, Figma, and many more. We've been self-funded since 2012, so we actually bought a tool that users need rather than chasing trends. The most recent example is the MCP server, which we built because the developers already work that way inside the AI coding tools such as Cursor or Cloud Code, and it made sense to meet them there. This was an easy decision for us to make because the format of the Innovation Challenge, 10 companies, that style, and the fact that it is live streamed to an audience beyond the conference puts us right in front of the kind of practitioner audience POEditor is built for. We're hoping to see specificity, not we use AI to improve quality, but here's the workflow, here's what broke, here's what we learned from it. These are the things that we believe are actually useful to the community. Join us on the 25th and 26th as localization companies showcase how they're using technology, AI, and innovation to solve real-life challenges.
Hello, hello. Good morning from Dallas, Texas. Good afternoon, all people joining in Europe and around the world. Jan is here, Maria is here, Konstantin is back. Konstantin, what do we have in store for day 2, man? It's very exciting yesterday. I think it's going to be even better today. Let us know.
Good morning, Stefan. I thought you're going to be still asleep at this early hour for Texas, but I guess the conference energy is enough to keep you awake for 3 days running. No,
I just
bother,
want to
no
know
breaks.
where Andrew found that clean-shaven picture of me online. That's what I want to know. We're going to have a talk about that offline after the conference. But
Yes,
I
and
digress. Go
tell me
ahead.
what you're taking to stay awake in the heat wave.
Pure
strong,
energy, pure energy.
strong coffee.
Strong coffee.
Oh, with the heat, no. I love coffee, but no, not with this heat.
All right,
Anyway.
Konstantin.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have day 2 starting. It's a busy day, and today we will have the first part of the Innovation Challenge. Innovation Challenge is a series of very short presentations from the vendor side, people who have built different solutions using either vibe coding or traditional development practices. So this is where we give floor to all the builders creating tools for commercialization. We received about 50 submissions this year, and let me show you, it's not an easy process to select which one go live and which one we pass on. You can see that we've been voting extensively and discussing and debating with the program committee. So we did the following choices. One, based on the feedback from the previous editions of GenAI and localization, we shortened presentations, right? So you can see a lot of different tools and technologies being built in a very short period of time. Succinct, concise, brief, energetic, very much pitch-like. To the buy side, we give about 15-20 minutes. Yesterday, we had sessions from ladies and gentlemen at Allegro, GitLab, and Adobe tools that they built. We'll have more today. I'm very excited to see the tool that Pavel from Simple App has built and Priscila's pipeline for quality management. I already saw glimpses of it at Lockworld. More is coming, so longer kind of slots for the buy side, shorter, more competitive for the vendor side. People from the vendor side can take it. They are usually more resilient and happy with pitching, at least ready to do so. So there are many presentations coming. And then, Stefan, in the afternoon, we have the workshop with NA10 and you with Gergana and Sebastian. What are we going to expect from the NA10 workshop? What are people going to take away? What are they working on today?
So we're actually presenting several ways in which to automate aspects of your workflow. We're going to be doing integrations with TMSs even. And maybe the biggest perk of this is that we're really stressing the democratic fact of this, that you can do anything without being an engineer. I'm no engineer by any stretch of the imagination, but you can bring somebody in that is an engineer like Sebastian and get things even more professional, so to speak. What we're going to send people away with, though, is a bunch of JSON files that are essentially starter kits to get going in N8N yourself. So even if you have never dabbled in N8N before, you'll have a way of getting something going after our presentation. And for once, I think people are going to be able to practically leverage their attendance of our workshop. So that's something exciting. There's something in there for everybody. And yeah, come take a look. I think you're going to be impressed.
Stefan, define engineer, right? If today we're talking about all the things a person can do, these were only possible for engineers before. Now it's possible for the linguist, for a project manager, product owner. Anybody can be a builder. And MCP, harness, JSON are the new sexy words that you say to get people.
And you know what I
excited.
think is particularly exciting about this is that so many of us that have, that are dinosaurs like me and you a little bit too in the industry have had lots of ideas over the years of what we could do and how we could automate things. And this type of technology puts that at our fingertips. That's really what we're aiming to show you this afternoon. That with a little bit of effort right now, you can actually become a builder and automate things that you've been dreaming about for several years. So that's what it's going to be about.
Jan, Maria, what are you excited about today for the second day of the conference? What catches your eye on the program?
Maria, go ahead.
Thank you, Jan. In my case, I'm really looking forward to the innovation challenge because you'll see we're going to have a short session of quick presentations, and I love that format. And I think the topics are very interesting, so I'm looking forward to that part. Ever since we started, I'm like innovation challenge. So excited today.
Just breaking a little bit.
No, Jan.
But I completely agree with Maria. I think the innovation challenge is also for me an absolute highlight because it's it's language tech unboxed. This is my topic on the channel. So innovation in language tech is like the spearhead of all this. So top this, but also Kraken. I mean, I'm really excited to hear about that. And from Priscila, I think we have a fantastic lineup today, and really looking forward to get this going today.
Perfect. It's a perfect moment to give a shout out to the innovation contest sponsor, POEditor. Thank you guys for supporting the conference and helping us realize this vision, bring the innovation challenge to the forefront. And with this, I guess we can proceed to the next item on the program. Stefan, what do we have?
Well, yesterday we introduced Maria Braddock a little bit. We really didn't do a very good job, and I even think I gave her the wrong title, so I hang my head in shame. Thought we talked to her a little bit before we get started and give her a chance to correct the record, so to speak. And Maria really has a very peculiar background that we were interested in. Maria, your career path is anything but traditional. How do you get from translation and academia into the Olympics and maybe set the record straight as to the mistakes I made yesterday introducing you?
Thank you. Not mistakes. It's just, well, first of all, I am from Costa Rica, super proud Costa Rican, and very proud Central American. So I just wanted to let that correction. And I always knew that I wanted to be a translator. I remember the day when I decided to become one, like it was yesterday, but it was many decades ago. And I wanted to work in human rights because I thought, okay, let me do what I love, but also let's save the world. That's what I thought that I was going to do. I was a teenager, but then right away when it was time for me to go to the university, I said, okay, let's go. Let's study translation. And in Costa Rica, what you have to do is that you first have to study the language, and there are only two options in Costa Rica, either English or French. And I was, at that time, I didn't know which one to study because I love French, and that's the first foreign language that I learned, but I thought English was going to open more doors for me. So I decided to go and study English. I became an English major. And then I worked for corporate companies, mainly from the US, like McKinsey, Lionbridge, doing all types of things, from project management, localization at Lionbridge, but I also did work with technology at Hewlett-Packard as well. But then I did my master's because I said, but what I want to do is translation. So I started the master's and I wrote my thesis about sports. And that's when I realized back in 2015 that if I wanted to work in sports, it was going to be easier for me to specialize in interpretation rather than in translation. I love translation. That's my first love. but I decided to continue doing research in interpretation. So my thesis was about job opportunities for language professionals in the Olympics. That was actually my thesis a few years ago. And then I had to make a decision, and the decision was to quit the job that I had, a really good job at a really good company. But if I wanted to work in sports, I had to find my own way. And I was able to work for the FIFA Women's Under-20 World Cup in Costa Rica back in 2022. That was the one that was supposed to be done in 2020. But
So
because
you're not only working for the Olympics, but you've worked for FIFA as well.
I
Maybe you
started
can
there.
give us all in the language industry a couple of tips as to how you get in with those types of organizations, because I would think you're pretty privileged working for the Olympics alone, but FIFA as well. There's a lot of people watching the World Cup right now. How do you get
Yes.
started with those organizations, Maria?
Well, correct. Like there are thousands of people applying to those jobs because those are global organizations. So it doesn't matter where you are, you can apply to the job. In some cases, you might need a visa. It depends because the events happen in different cities, in different countries as well. So the first thing that I would say is to apply is that you have to be specialized in sports. In our case, we always say, and even when I worked for the Olympics, for the Milano Cortina 2026 Olympic and Paralympic Games, we always said, everyone in this, when we were like all together, everyone in this room loves sports, but liking sports is not enough. And also, sports is a very, very broad topic. So you need to be specialized. If you want to work for the Olympics, then you need to be specialized in either Summer Olympics or Winter Olympics. If you want to work for FIFA, then you need to be specialized in football or soccer. Or if you want to work for a specific sport, then you need to be either specialized in tennis. You need to know all of the terminology for badminton, for swimming. So you need to be an expert in language, but you also need to be an expert in the sport or sports that you would like to work in.
And you're specialized in winter sports and in soccer.
Yes, exactly, in those two. For
All
now.
right. And okay, and your title at the Olympics is interpretation manager. What does that role really entail at the Olympics?
Yes, so each organization, each local committee decides how they're going to work with language. So for example, Milano Cortina decided to separate translation and interpretation. So I was working for the functional area called language services, and we mainly work with interpretation. Translation was actually part of a different functional area, which was called editorial services. But again, it depends on the edition of the Olympics and Paralympics, if they decided to have it together or separated. In our case, it was separated, and I work with interpretation only. But I think not many people know that the organization, the planning starts years before. And in my case, I had to move to Milan a year and a half before. But usually my role gets higher 2 years or 1 year and a half before the start of the games. So what we have to do that year and a half before the actual games was hiring the interpreters, the professional interpreters, also help the functional area that was in charge of the volunteers, recruiting the volunteers, and also recruit the workforce. Because especially for Milano Cortina, that was the first time that the Olympics were spread out through different cities. It was called Milano Cortina, but it didn't tell more than just 2 cities. It was Milano, Cortina, and other cities as well around this area. So we have many different venues, and we needed to have our own staff in all of the different venues to make sure that the volunteers, for example, had someone to work with in each venue. And also we worked the interpretation for all of the press conferences. So in total, we did 450 press conferences live. So the press
Wow.
conferences that the entire world was watching, those were the press conferences that we were interpreting professionally from Milano.
Maria, we want to switch to the hackathon and check in with the hackathon real quick. But I have one parting question for you. Maybe something fun that you can share about the Olympics that we would never imagine. I imagine you probably have to be tight-lipped about all kinds of stuff that you can't talk about. But is there something fun and exciting that you can tell us that we would never imagine about the Olympics in parting?
Fun, maybe not so much fun for me, but I survive and I can do anything now, I think. Snoop Dogg is usually part of the Olympic Games, and unfortunately, the only day that I left the venue where I was working, because they are divided into competition venues and non-competition venues, and interpretation was done from the media center and non-competition venue. But the day that I was away, Snoop Dogg came into the media center and I missed it. And I wanted to meet him. So it wasn't fun, but it was actually very sad for me.
You kept it more sober than if you had met Snoop Dogg without a doubt. Thank you so much, Maria. Konstantin, the next segment is about the hackathon. We want to check in with what our hackers are up to this morning. Can you give us a little insight?
And we were just getting started with the story of Snoop Dogg.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
It's a completely different vibe coding, and the vibe of the great Olympic event. I've watched the biathlon from Milano Cortina, and I really liked it. Biathlon is one of my favorite sports. So Jan, you watch football? I'm not going to say soccer like Stefan does it in an American way.
I mean, we are all in World Cup fever right now, and I just can so relate to what Maria just said about, you know, the organization and the stress levels translators and interpreters live through when they do these macro events, and to our audience, you know, all and interpreters, simultaneous interpretation. That is, for me, it's like the superior class of people. I'm absolutely amazed about their capacity. So yeah, you survived too, Maria. Congratulations, great, well done, and looking forward to listen more stories about that.
All right, and back to AI. All right, we have a hackathon going, and for those of you who are joining for the first time, let me recap for you. We have 4 challenges that the participants can pick from: a quality pipeline for a localization team which mines the context, an evaluation tool which compares different models to see which one fits their content better, maybe one for legal, another one for marketing. The number 3 is a website reviewer, which checks language quality across different languages, produces scores and suggestions to improve the website. And finally, a localization manager's dream, a capacity planner for a team which helps with language and language engineering to different stakeholders within the organization. All of these challenges have been suggested by real buy-side industry practitioners, localization directors who have some of these business needs these days. They're not completely covered by AI. So if you build something, this will be smack on into what the market needs these days. And we do have a prize pool of $1,000 going around to the lucky winner. More than 35 people signed up for the hackathon. A few teams are working. There is interest mostly for the challenge number 3. I learned this morning when I sent them an email asking how things are going. The website reviewer seems to be the tool which does not require connectivity to the translation systems and TMX, but instead can work with any website. It's kind of gonna be flashy and interesting. And the people are working also on Challenge 2. So these are the two most popular ones. And with us, we have William to kind of showcase how it is going. What's the experience like? William, would you like to join and say a few words about your current progress and your work?
Yeah, sure. So hi, everyone. I'm building the challenge number 4.
You're doing number 4.
Yes, I'm doing number 4. So my goal is to actually get the challenge number 4 as a foundation and actually walk the extra mile. So I do want to actually build the dream. So I am picturing and I am translating the real pipeline of translations from big companies, from pushing strings from GitHub into a repo that is connected to a translation software. And then from there, managing everything with AI via Slack, and also integrate the localization team into the Slack to do review and changes via Slack to be implemented live in the repo.
Wow, this would take a couple of years to develop under normal circumstances for a software company.
True, but now with AI, it's quite. I have progressed. I believe I am in 70% already.
It's only day 2 started. You're already in 70%. Wow.
Yeah. So, but I was awake last night watching for the Brazil soccer game as
Even that.
Stefan said yesterday. Yes, I was watching until late the game, so I had time.
My goodness, this is efficiency. You are an AI bot, man. Proves that you are real.
What can I do?
We
Did
believe
the
you.
agents work while you slept and watched the game?
A little bit, yes, a little bit. Because the agents that actually do the translation, they are the LLM behind the decision of translating. So I need to make sure that the translation that comes from these agents, they are actual like good translations and trustworthy translations that actually follow a guideline. So I'm working with a lot of guardrails, so nothing escapes. So nothing crazy happens with the translation. So there are a lot of rules.
Do you want to show us some of your work, how you work? Do you work in a specific tool or an IDE? So maybe if you'd like, you can show the progress so that people have a hands-on impression from.
Yeah, sure. Let me see if I can share my screen.
This is a bit putting you on the spot, but it would be fun if we can do it.
No worries at all.
Super interesting. This is why we are here.
This is why we're here.
So I think I shared my Slack with you. Are you able to see the localization
we can see the Slack
channel? Yeah. So perfect. So this is how we are receiving the cards via Slack. So this happens here. It's a bit blurry.
It's a bit blurry. Hard to read. Maybe you have to play.
Yeah, there we go. This is now.
Oh, it's the resolution. So let me try to make it like this.
Perfect.
Okay. So my agent actually understands if a translation has confidence enough to pass or if it needs a human to validate. So this is also evaluated in the pipeline. And then we send the strings here in Slack. And then these are cards that I already clicked. But I can click on a card and actually approve, deny, and edit a translation via Slack. So I don't have to go to any tool to approve translations. And everything is done inside the specific channel for each locale. So it's not a polluted system. So everyone stays inside Slack discussing on the thread about the localization if needed, if a localization needs to be discussed inside a thread. And yeah, so this is what I'm doing. Steph, I'm sorry, you were saying.
No, William, it's really fascinating to see because
we're
doing some integrations with Slack as well this afternoon. So it's great to see that you're actually vibe coding it from scratch, so to speak.
Yeah. So here are the cards that I actually received. So, for example, I have here.
Looks like this progressed well.
Yeah. So here the
the
string sync
interface will
now and the German
stay
translate
Slack, right?
translation.
This is not going to be a front end separate from this environment.
Come again, Konstantin, please.
Yeah, sorry, I kind of barged in, crashed the party. The interface is going to be always Slack.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, I'm getting signals we should move on with the program. Do we want to have a couple of words from Monica and Gargana, the judges, just maybe to say hi?
It's up to you. Hi, everyone. We are going and we are very eager to actually see what comes out of it at the end. So we are monitoring everything closely along with Konstantin, and we see how it goes. Let the best one win.
All right.
Hi. Well, we have actually just recently completed a big hackathon in Allegro, so I really understand how you feel. I was in your place quite recently, but I was not really competing for any special money, so it was less fun in that way. But I wish you luck and patience. I know I know very well it's draining and difficult and frustrating sometimes, but can be also very rewarding. So.
Okay, William, Monica, Gargana, thank you very much. So this is the hackathon check-in. Work is underway. Teams are progressing. We can see already great work being delivered and created in parallel to the football game. And I guess now it's time to finish the introductory segment and proceed to the much awaited innovation challenge. Jourik and Dave are already on stage and waiting for their turn.
Perfect. Now we can start. We can kick off our innovation challenge. This is where you'll see what people are actually building today. And through a series of short TED-style sessions, our speakers will share their problem they set out to solve, what they build, and the lessons they learn along the way. But before we get started, let's hear a quick word from our Innovation Challenge sponsor, POEditor.
The future of localization isn't built in theory. It's built by teams solving real problems every day. The Innovation Challenge is proudly sponsored by POEditor. So join us as localization companies, share how they're turning ideas into reality.
I see the video.
I don't. Yeah, but I have no sound.
You don't have sound?
No.
It's working. It's all right. Don't worry.
We're back live.
No, it's the video.
But I'm not sure if the video played. Okay, then we can continue. To guide us through, please welcome Dave Ruane and Jourik Ciesielski. Dave and Jourik, if you're ready, we'll leave it in your hands. Let's check if they're here.
I'm here.
Hello.
Perfect.
And Dave is here as well. Hi, everybody.
Hello, hello.
How's it going? Yeah, thanks very much, Maria and Kostya and Jan, Stefan. Do I keep going with the list, everybody? Great to be here. Jourik, we're here again. They let us back.
Absolutely. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. First things first. And once we get that out of the way, we should be all set. Dave, can you quickly confirm whether you can see my screen properly?
Hey guys, I can see Dave and Jourik. I don't think I see the screen right now.
It will can see the screen.
Your screen is on.
Excellent.
All right.
Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think we're ready to rock and roll, Dave, right?
Are we ever? Yeah. What are we doing this time? What are we going to see?
Well, let's talk about it. Hi, and welcome everybody to the GenAI in Localization Innovation Challenge. We are back after we ran the challenge for the first time at the previous edition of the conference. We have lots of materials to unpack today, so no time to lose. Let's dive right in. What can you expect from today's session? First of all, we will see innovation across different disciplines. There will be multilingual content creation, there will be quality estimation, automated post-editing, we will have knowledge graphs, and we even have AI dubbing making its debut on the program. That is happening tomorrow. Super excited about that. Other than that, we have different presenter profiles. We have representatives from AI startups, big LSPs, small LSPs, as well as tech companies. And finally, more importantly, we will see different approaches and visions, opinions about what innovation can or should look like in our industry in the current Gen AI climate. I am joined by Dave Ruane. Dave is probably the most popular facilitator of innovation platforms in our industry, the beating heart behind the Process Innovation Challenge at Lockworld. Dave, great to have you here. Please walk us through the structure of the Innovation Challenge.
Yeah, the nice thing about these, thanks, Jourik, is people will pitch for 4 minutes. We'll talk to them for another 4 minutes. So if you don't particularly like the pitch or it doesn't do it for you, you've only wasted 8 minutes. All right, that's fair, isn't it? So that's the structure we're going to go through. We have 6 innovators today, and then same thing again tomorrow. And if we do see a relevant audience question, we'll try and bring it into our discussion. Otherwise, we'll just talk to the innovators after their pitch. So yeah, time is our currency at these, and that reminds me, I was at the doctor's recently, and he said to me, "I'd like to talk to you about your weight." And I said, "Well, it was only about 25 minutes, but at least the chair was comfortable." So,
people, if you catch me staring at the ceiling during the presentation, it's Dave making jokes and I'm not getting them. That's basically what's going on. So expect something like that in today's session.
Yeah, given your reaction there, maybe we limit the jokes. We're getting one laughter through on reactions. Thank you. That's probably someone from my family. Good stuff. So I just want to do a quick check, Jourik, before we do kick things off proper. And some people weren't seeing the slide share, so I just want to validate that. If anyone could just send us a message if you are not seeing the slides being shared right now, and maybe Jill can help us out with that. So otherwise, we shall proceed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Kostya. I think Diego couldn't see them. So if people could just confirm, and Jill, maybe you can help us out. All right.
All right. Looks like we are good to go, right?
Yeah. So thanks again to POEditor for supporting this, and let's kick things off.
Absolutely. Time to call our first presenter to the stage. Jill will take care of that for us professionally. Philip is going to be our first presenter and is going to start sharp with a presentation on multilingual content creation. Philip, whenever you are ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jourik, for the introduction. I'm very excited to kick off today's Innovation Showcase. As you will see soon on the screen, I'm not sure if we're seeing the presentation yet, that's good. My intervention today is oriented around marketing, entitled From SEO to AEO, Winning Visibility in the Age of AI Search. So if you're a marketer or working closely with marketing teams, you will know that there's now a shift from SEO discoverability to AEO and or GEO visibility. So what it means is that now users are not searching for keywords in search engine anymore, like Google or Bing, but instead they're asking specific questions to Gemini or ChatGPT, for instance. One of the recent reports from HubSpot, very well-known CRM in the world, had a consumer trend report during which they indicated that 72%, listen, 72% of users will be using AI-powered search more often over traditional search engine. And another report actually from this time from Shopify, so specialized in e-commerce, demonstrated that AI is being responsible for a growing slice of discovery in e-commerce. So if we can go to the next slide. Of course, SEO will not disappear tomorrow, but what it means for marketers at least, and localization team working with marketers, one, they need to continue the SEO efforts, which is already like quite heavy. And on top of that, they have to consider this other channel. So they need to prepare for growing content for AEO purposes, right? As a result, there's an even greater need for content in different forms. However, unfortunately, budget and resources are never unlimited. And that's why already for quite a long time, marketers and writers have been using AI for generating content. Now, the problem they are facing is that when content is solely created via AI, it can face inconsistency in quality outputs. It takes longer time to actually get performing copies, and sometimes is being penalized by search engines like Google, for instance, or Bing. Right. So, next slide. And this is exactly why we actually developed Descript GenAI. Descript GenAI is a AI-powered content generation platform designed to help marketers and localization team to create high-quality, multilingual content at scale with a human touch. So in our framework, we're using customizable templates and prompts to generate SEO or AEO-ready content, including product description, FAQs that are really needed for AEO purposes, how-to guides, comparison pages, checklists, and many other type of structured contents that AI search engine increasingly favor. To maximize search performance, users will be bringing their primary or secondary keywords into Descript GenAI, and then the platform will integrate those keywords naturally into entity-rich content, helping improve SEO, AEO, and GEO readiness. But of course, AI alone isn't enough, and this is what we said before, right? So that's why the human expertise remains essential for creating authentic, engaging, and brand-compliant content. And within Descript GenAI, editors, writers, reviewers will have a live editing interface where content specialists can review, refine, and optimize the generated content in real time. And in the next slide, you will see the most powerful part of it is the real-time QA that is being embedded into the editor's view. The customizable checklist will be flagging errors live so that the content for the writer so that the content writer can address and fix those issues. The built-in QA validates keyword coverage to make sure that all the keywords that have been essential and selected by the marketing team are going to be used, that the formatting is going to be compliant with what is required in terms of length. The formatting with the headings is also like being compliant with the requirements and other type of customer-specific requirements that can be raised from marketers. So the idea is basically to allow teams to publish faster without compromising quality. Okay, so in a nutshell, and to keep it short within those 4 minutes allotted, our customers are now creating copies. Sorry, next slide. 3 times to 10 times faster than they used to. The real-time semantic keyword validation that you can see in the editor helped to improve organic visibility from the output copy. And today, Descript GenAI already supports 13 languages, and we're aiming to basically increase a bit more the language coverage to obviously cover, for instance, main European languages, Southeast Asian languages, Latin American languages. And the last slide, I wanted to mention that with Descript GenAI, you can create faster, you rank better, but more importantly, you scale globally by creating content that is optimized for AEO and GEO across market and languages. So if you want to learn more about Descript GenAI, feel free to check out my LinkedIn and get in touch. You can find me, Philippe Gao at Clear Local, and thank you.
Thanks, Philippe. Very interesting stuff. A lot to pack in there, as you'd expect. Very relevant as well, right? Let me ask you, can you somehow quantify? You mentioned that human effort needed to go from raw AI-generated content to final product. Can you give us a kind of a short quantification on that?
Yeah. So I really mentioned that in the past we have already rolled out the platform for half a dozen e-commerce companies. And some companies are able to actually expedite content 3 times faster. So so that obviously, like the AI generation content is helping, but the QA part is also like very helpful. Some other companies that may have a more, I would say, complex or complete set of rules and requirements will be able to actually go even faster, up to 10 times faster when it comes to creating the content. And again, content can be anything from this product description, landing pages, FAQs, other blog articles that could be actually needed for such AEO purposes.
Yeah, and then the actual human effort, so that's the scale piece, great. The human effort to go from the generated content to a final product. Can you give us a quick quantification on that?
Yeah, so the human effort is at the beginning, basically feeding this GenAI with the requirements, and then the second part will be the editing into like the editor's view. So editing is usually like very little, from what we've seen, around 20%, and that's why like teams are able to actually expedite.
Okay, great, thank you.
I also have a question for you, Philip. Dave and I, we are very, very interested in really understanding the problem that you're trying to solve. And of course, you brought up a couple of valid problems, which are very common in the industry: faster time to market, keyword compliance, budget, and so on and so forth. However, can you elaborate a little bit more on the problem that led you to building this solution, and more importantly, ditching the traditional localization model in favor of multilingual content creation?
Yeah, so one of the, actually everyone is talking about AI, right? And a lot of people have been already using AI generative content to create content for the website, the product. When we're talking to clients, there's a lot of fatigue around AI because they're not able to have something that is going to be consistent or sustainable. Yes, maybe a batch of content is going to be okay, but the following one, for any reasons, is not going to be following the keywords that have been required. You still have to actually go back and forth in the prompt editing to actually make it happen. And that is really the pain that impacted the customer side to be efficient or having a sustainable efficiency when it comes to using AI. So this is why we actually decided to create this live QA, like a tool within the editor, so that whenever writers or content writers are going to be working on it, they could see real time what they need to fix, and then like do it very quickly and expedite, go to the next one. So that is really the pain point that we identified when it comes to using AI, and we try to address it with this live embedded QA tool. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, we're out of time. Thanks a million, Philippe. Hey, one quick question came in. If you can give me one word answer. Who is the user of this platform? Copywriter, someone else?
Users, yeah. It's essentially marketers and copywriters.
Excellent. Thanks. That's from Kostya. Thanks, Kostya, for bringing that in. Excellent. Thanks, Philippe. All right.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Yeah, so next, thanks a million. And we'll move on. So next on stage is Anna. Anna, we'll ask you to pitch your idea.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
We can hear you fine.
Hello. So I'm going to present Mix.ai. This is an app we developed internally. We are an LSP, a very small LSP. You can move to the next slide. So just to give a little bit of background, we are a local creation monolingual LSP. And we were struggling with software. And we were struggling with the same thing everyone is struggling: fragmented workflows, weak terminology control, limited Q&A, and so on. So we were thinking we have to change something. And we were thinking about software. So the same old question: what should we do with the software? So what happens here? Why do you think I put this slide on? I put it on because I was thinking of software, like, for example, this lady. This is a wonderful lady, but we have a saying in Dalmatia which says that you cannot turn a grandma into a young girl. So you see here that she has a lot of makeup, modern haircuts, she's got some fillers, Botox, so on. But she's still a grandma, a modern-looking grandma. So that's exactly how I was seeing existing translation software solutions, and suddenly that are suddenly adding artificial intelligence integration. And I've seen in the last years this race to put AI into systems built 20 or more years ago. So new modules, new buttons, new marketing names, new automation layers, multiple API keys, but always the same architecture, same limitations, and powerful AI models. So would this solve our problems? That was our starting point. No, the processes are still fragmented. We are still having the same problems. So we came to the traditional questions, which was addressed at this conference so many times: buy or build. So obviously, we decided to build, but building seems easier. Buying seems easier. Building is very difficult. But when you buy, you always end up adapting something, so you're still building. That's why we were building. And we had months of development and a lot of trial and error and plenty of ideas that sounded great until we tried to implement them. Many moments when we realized that we're solving things that have already been solved long ago by the big tech players in the industry. And these problems were solved, but they were not tailored for us. So what we did is not a TMS, it's not a translation tool, it's just an attempt to reinvent our own translation processes. And I believe that we address something that many LSPs are fighting with. And we started to make, we just had the goal to make our work easier, and we achieved to build something that became really interesting, like really good. And building was a good choice for us. Did we succeed? I would say we did, and I will show you a demo right now. But because since April, you can move on from all of that. And let's start with the demo. Since April 4th, we've been just using this platform. And this is our platform. This is all the typical things that you're expecting to see in any TMS. Everything is AI first. Everything is new. No grandma, all new software. Everything is built on multiple agents. There is 3 layers of quality assessment. There is preview, everything you would see in a traditional local software, local cut tool. We just build our own, which is AI first. And it has an automatic creation of glossary projects, cross projects, coordination of everything, revision. And we will have also integration with our automatic system for ordering translations as well. It's very important to say that we are a company that is dealing mostly with documents, not strings. So as we are seeing here, we can also, these are projects, we can import our own files with bilingual memories. We can import templates. We can import our glossaries in multiple formats. We can also give instructions. See, for example, here I put to make it Alex Ramosi style, the translation, just to show off here. And as you can see, it's very, very fast. Everything is in one screen. It has made our life so much easier. And that's NixAI. This is a quick glimpse. If you want the additional demo, please contact me on LinkedIn. And I'm ready for questions.
Anna, thank you very much. This was great. You are reflecting a very strong vision here. I would put the commercial TMS in with something custom built from scratch. So that's a very strong opinion. And I think this will resonate with some people in the room today. However, I do have a little bit of maybe a tough question for you. So you have built something for your own workflows, your own daily operations. Are you aware of the risk that at some point maintaining this platform might become more expensive than buying a modern looking grandma?
This is, we spent so much on building this software that actually I haven't been thinking about the future costs. And also, to be honest, we have applied to multiple European funding projects and some of them are successful. So we are going to have some substantial help there. So this is in the future.
What is your honest answer if tomorrow MemoQ and Phrase and Trados ship everything that you have built into your system?
I don't know. I don't care. I'm just solving my own problem. I'm so happy that I solved it and I don't have to send anyone for training, go for training, listening to videos, going through the millions of questions that are up there in their platforms when you don't have a paid support. I'm so happy about that.
Love it. Solving my own problem. Bottom line.
Yeah, and maybe that's a trend we're seeing across the industry. Hey, I love that. I also love that no grandma, all new software. So I guess the lesson we're hearing is don't put lipstick on legacy solutions, people. Great point, Anna. I have a slightly different question for you. So how did you go about building this innovation? Like, what did that process look like? Was it a lot of fun? Was it craziness? Just a little bit of a sneak peek in there.
It takes at least one crazy LSP owner with some money and at least 3 crazy developers that are willing to put their nights into this. But we have done it. The thing is that our general operations, daily operations, were really compromised because everyone was doing the debugging. So we just like went into this debugging process where everyone was just continuously working on documents and putting in errors, and live we were fixing them.
Oh, continuous hackathon, it sounds like. That's very relevant to
Continuous
today.
for months and months and months. No time of the day or night, nothing was important.
Wow, well done to you all. Now, follow-on question for me. Should everyone then consider building their own tools, just like you did? Would you recommend it?
I don't know. I had a lot of fun, but that's my nature. I don't know if everyone wants to do this. This is like a question, should you buy a ready house or build one? Building one makes it really your own, and buying one, it's easier, but it's a little bit more expensive. I don't know. Everyone has to choose. It's a personal preference. It's the gustibus.
You're sitting on the fence on that one. We'll let you off. That's good. Jourik, do we have another question? We have time for one more.
Do we have another question? Maybe yes. Of course, we have sensed some frustration towards commercial TMSs and CAD systems out there. Can you point out your biggest frustration? Is it price? Is it scattering? What's your biggest frustration?
I hate multiple programs that have to be incorporated in one. I don't want to put in another API key. I don't want to have no control of the costs. I don't want to have these fragmented processes. I don't want to have it local. I want new. I want a girl, not a gram.
Crystal clear. Thank you very much. What I take away from this is that you're having a lot of fun and solving your own problems. Kudos to you, Anna. Very good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're getting a fan club as well, Anna. Check out the chat and maybe you can answer any of the questions that we haven't been able to get to. I see Stephen has one in there, if you wouldn't mind. But thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
All right. And I think it's time to call our next presenter on stage, which is Ariana. And Ariana is going to share a genuine piece of vibe coding with you. Ariana, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
All right. Hello. Hi, everyone. I hope we could hear me.
Yes,
I just got some
All good.
confirmation. Wonderful. Thank you for having me. So my name is Ariane Farah, and I'm Head of Innovation for Language Services at Aperterra. Today, I'm going to show you a little bit of what we've done at the intersection of language operations, automation, and practical AI implementation. So you've all seen and fixed or had fixed automation failures like these up on the slides. There's simple segments. There's nothing difficult. There's nothing creative, but they're still often wrong. Now, the frustrating part is that it's so predictable. Month after month, project after project, QA after QA, and we can only ask, why are we still fixing this? Why are these mistakes so obvious to us? And they're so invisible to automation. So next slide. We're in 2026, so of course, all we hear is send it to AI. And honestly, why not? It's flexible, it's fast, it's smart, and we still see the same failures. So something's not adding up. The pattern is fixed, the rules are fixed, the solution is fixed. Why do we keep solving it from scratch? And at scale, even small risks of failure become inevitable. So we ask ourselves, instead of generating the output, if we could define exactly what we want, can we generate a system that produces it on demand? And what would that look like? So next up. So we gave interested linguists and project managers a crash course in Python, not to make them developers, but to demystify automation, to learn to distinguish between tasks that require expertise and tasks that simply apply rules. And helper TMs, which are filled with synthetic segments generated by applying these rules, turned out to be the perfect training ground. They provide immediate value while remaining simple, familiar, they're cat tool agnostic, and low risk. But what we're really building is the ability to turn intuition into instructions. Next slide. So what does that mean? It means a helper TM isn't the product, nor is the generator that creates it. The real innovation is a framework, or rather the idea of a reusable framework that de-risks one-shot vibe coding. Without it, every automation starts from scratch, and all the nitty-gritty of localization has to be figured out. So we built a framework to handle all those little details. We work mainly with one language pair. Of course, if you have many, you would have to build many or make it adaptable. So now linguists only have to define the rules they want applied. In this example, the prompt is essentially generate 5 years worth of segments in this format. That's it. The complexity is being moved out of the prompt and into the reusable framework. Next slide. So let's reuse it. This time we're not following localization rules. We're telling it that we don't want to localize the date here, but the framework stays the same. Only the rules and the generator change. And that's what makes this approach so powerful. The people who recognize the automation opportunity now have the tools and the skills to act on it. So let's step back from helper TMs for a moment. This is really a tale of two AIs. The first one generates each output from scratch, following instructions. So another prompt, another execution, another validation. The other one generates the system that generates the outputs. One framework, bespoke linguist-defined generators. TMs whose segments require no further prompting, no execution, no validation, and more importantly, the return is immediate. The framework was built in days. The first automation paid for it almost immediately. Everything after that is gravy. So now, even though the idea of using cutting-edge AI to generate something many of you would consider obsolete may seem counterintuitive, the TMs are simply a means to an end. The goal is to put automation within reach of the people who keep asking, why am I still fixing this? Because they're usually on to something. It gives them the means to extend the reach of their expertise and eliminate thousands of future corrections. And that's how we went from a daily update to a 5-year solution with AI and with TMs. So next slide. Now, if there's one thing I'd like you to take away from this presentation, it's this. Not every recurring problem finds its answer in a model with more parameters, a more detailed prompt, a bigger context window, or another layer of agentic AI. When we talk about AI and localization, we often think about machine translation, agents, increasingly sophisticated workflows. They absolutely have their place, but AI could also help the people closest to the problem build precise, reusable solutions. They're created once, they're validated once, they're deployed once, they're reused thousands of times, and they deliver value from day one. So thank you for listening, and I'd be happy to take your questions now.
Hey, this is great. You know, I like the elegancy of how you presented, you know, specific enough problems, but I got the sense that, you know, this could be an extensible sort of a framework. Can you just talk a little bit to that?
Definitely. This is the tip of the iceberg. I did only have 4 minutes. We have everything from, we've had PMs handle themselves cases where we had HTML errors in things that we, instead of having to create a ticket and to escalate these very simple problems, but that they didn't have the confidence before to fix. And of course, we also do have a backend, which does a lot of this things that are applied to many, many projects. But this is for all those little things that aren't big enough to make it to like an official roadmap.
Right. Okay, great.
Ariana, question for you. You kind of talked about it a lot in your presentation already, but I feel like I have to ask the question. Everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people in our industry claim that TMs are obsolete, right? So do you think that this innovation is still relevant next year or within 2 years?
Absolutely.
If yes, if not, what will your framework be producing?
Absolutely. I think it actually future-proofs it because it's not dependent on a model. It's not dependent on a price structure. It's not dependent on an environment. It's one of the reasons that things that could go into TMs went into TMs, because if our little backend goes down, we have, they're hosted other places, and they also make it a lot less risky for data. If you're in a company that uses external providers, then it's a lot less risky than to have them connect directly to your system. And at the same time, we work in in many very regulated environments, and TMs really allow version control.
Understood.
And this level of granularité, very fine details that an LLM would not necessarily pick up, even if instructed to.
Okay. Yeah. I have a last question, which is really about, did you, the team, or linguists master vibe coding as you went about this, or Python, you mentioned as well, or just learn enough? Was it a case of just enough essential parts? Tell us about that.
So it's enough to already distinguish between magic and doable, and what would take a lot of work and what would not take a lot of work, which already creates, allows people to suggest ideas that they have a good idea, that they think will be able to be implemented. Comment dire? So again, it was really to demystify. It's not about the language. We've used the same kind of thing to create macros also in Word, because yeah.
Right. So as we say in Ireland, enough to be a little bit dangerous at it, but really to remove the kind of feeling of an imposter syndrome, because you're able to do a few things, you get confidence, and then maybe you want to do a few more, or you stop there.
Exactly. And what's funny is that now, like, it's something they're like, we thought we fixed this. Why isn't it working? And you look and you're like, oh, actually, it's because there's this small shift in the source, which is why they trust it, because they know that it's not going to pass through, like, let's say a malformed number, like 10,00.00. Is that 1,000, 10,000? Is it a typo? Like, it's not going to get caught in these cogs because it doesn't fit this very specific pattern. While an LLM, if you pass it through machine translation, would just translate it.
Yeah.
And you have one malformed number in like a 250,000 word project. Like, try to notice it.
Exactly, right. Ariane, thank you very much. Very interesting
Ariane.
stuff. We have to move on. So who's our next innovator is going to be Adam. Adam, hey, welcome to the stage. We can't hear you.
I wasn't saying anything important, so.
And now you are. You're on stage. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. All right, let's jump into it. So yeah, just wanted to share myths and truths about quality estimation and automatic post editing. I think the number one myth, we were just at Loquworld 2 weeks ago in Dublin, and yeah, I heard from some folks QE is bullshit. Meanwhile, you got other folks on stage, they've been using QE for years to automate hundreds of millions of words. So what's going on? Why do people have this impression, or some people have this impression? Basically, QE became a thing that, it is really easy to like get some LLM to do random, or even older school AI to do some random number generation and add that to any platform or service or whatever. So a lot of folks got in the game. I think evolution is a good thing, but a lot of companies, both buyers and LSPs, then went out and tried those things that were in whatever platform they were using because it was easy, and had a very bad experience with that. I think we all know people like that. And you know how it is. It's just like with AI, right? You try it once, it doesn't work. You kind of mentally discard it and try it again. But I assure you, you've probably actually seen content, right? Like the top hotel descriptions on Booking.com, just millions of words of patents. If you enjoy reading patents for fun, luxury fashion, right? Technical documentation from companies like Siemens have been approved, but by AI for years. So it is not bullshit. Another myth is that you can just kind of use raw QE scores directly, right? If you're a large buyer translating 100 million words a year, you're going to get these QE scores next to those words, and that's somehow going to make the translators faster. It doesn't really work like that. That's now the translators got to look at 100 million scores. So nobody is doing that. Like literally, I don't think you can find anybody who has had success integrating scores into a high scale workflow like that. In fact, I would say if someone is trying to sell you scores, you can basically be sure that they have never actually made this work in production in reality. Because if they had, they wouldn't be giving you scores. So QE is a key internal component of the systems that are actually successfully used to automate a bunch of words, right? But at the end, a system that actually makes this work at scale has to take responsibility, has to say, hey, these ones are good and these ones are bad, not just dumping scores on you, on the translators, etc. So this myth exists, I think, because when those scores are bullshit, when they're random number generators, the provider doesn't want to take responsibility. They want to put responsibility on you. So you deal with what does 72 mean? What does 98 mean? So that's why this myth exists. But yeah, that's not how it works. There's also this idea of QE for eval, like for comparing engines, for deciding if this project is good enough to be used with raw MT or not, right? You know, these are important things, right? Most of it, this is the builders talk. So like a lot of us build systems. So we personally need that. But really the highest value use case is to actually approve or reject new segments in production. And I think these other marginal lower value use cases kind of kick around for two reasons. First, yeah, we builders primarily think about our own problems and not the problems of basically the buyers who are ordering projects. But also, again, because if it's not really working, then you say, okay, well maybe somebody can use it for other things. And I think vendors, you got to be responsible as a vendor. And if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I could AI that says if the AI translation is good or bad, I could use it for this, I could use it for that. You got to take responsibility and say, no, this is like not actually the most interesting thing you could do with this. We don't do this. We do this, right? So that's why that's kicking around. Fourth myth. So APE, right? Automatic post editing. A lot of folks kind of think that it's for reducing post editing effort. The truth is, once you have QE that's actually working, you only care about one thing, which is how can I boost, increase the number of segments that are approved by the QE. You stop caring about if it's going to be rejected. Was it like a little bit of effort to post edit or a lot of effort? Likewise, if it's approved, like it has to be good, so it doesn't really matter. I think this one kicks around. This is really a continuation of the sort of post editing illusion of the 2010s, right? Where people said, oh, instead of translating from scratch, we're going to do post editing of machine translation, and it's going to be like way faster. Well, it turned out it's a little bit faster, but it's not like a 10x. And so it's like and then the same thing happened now. Neural MT 2017 to now. Obviously MT is like way better, awesome compared to how it was, and yet post editing isn't that much faster. It's not like 10x faster than before because the translators were right. If I have to spend cognitive effort looking at the segment, looking at the source, comparing, making sure there's nothing in there, I'm not actually that much faster, even if I make way fewer edits, right? And so APE just by itself doesn't really matter. The only thing is if I can actually approve more segments with QE. Last myth is that QE and APE is replacing humans. Now, QE and APE is actually the way that AI can like really automate a serious chunk of the work, right? And so in that sense, yes, unlike just like post editing or whatever, it is kind of replacing folks in specific projects. But I think that we all have to step back. We're like so far away from a world where you could translate everything into every language. Most customers are only doing 10 languages. I would never go tell my kids, hey, son, you don't need to learn English because, AI is going to do it for you. And you can just operate like that. Nobody, even the most AI pilled person would never go and say that. So we're really, really far.
Oh.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Adam, thank you very much. That was really interesting. I had a bunch of questions lined up for you, but you basically answered all of them during your presentation. So maybe one very open question. I know Modelfront as a pioneer in the whole QE space. It feels like you've been around since forever. Can you take us back to the moment where you decided to start Modelfront and build and sell QE solutions to translation buyers?
I was, I don't think it was a single moment. I was looking at this when I was inside of Google Translate, maybe 2010, right? It was so bad back then. But still, for a lot of content, half the time it was good, or 80% of the time it was good, and 20% of the time it was bad. And I had a very strong internal belief that we, as builders of this AI, must be able to say what some of these were so bad, it's like so obvious. We must be able to warn the user that this is bad and unusable segment, right? So that was sort of my original inspiration. As these models got better, right, the T and GPT, the transformer, came out of my old team at Google, etc. I said, oh my God, we can build it. And now these things support 100 plus languages. And like, this is really something that the world should have. There should be a goddamn API that says if the translation is good or bad. And at that point, I didn't know what a TMS or LSP was, to be very open with all of you, because I was doing stuff like running the Google Chrome, Google Translate integration, right? It's on Android, 5 billion people use it. I had no idea about TMSs and LSPs. And, I met you all at Loveworld that back then, like 2020 or so. And so, yeah, but then you said, okay, what's the highest value use case of this technology, of AI, that says if the translation is good or bad? Well, yeah, it's large buyers with high volume, but high quality workflows in these things called TMSs, with maybe even 1 or 2 human review steps, right? And so, and that is really where you can kind of change the world, because that's the stuff that gets printed on the websites of the top companies, etc.
Yeah, cool. Hey, brilliant stuff. We've run out of time, Adam. You've covered a lot of ground. Some people might say, he would say all those myths, but you've built this kind of a blue ocean here, and you're sticking in. So well done. Good pitch. And thank you, Adam. Next.
Thank you very much, Adam. All right, 2 more pitches to go. I would like to call Arthur on stage now. Arthur, the original title of your presentation was a little bit, let's say, provocative. The future of TMS is grounded in history. Whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So, hi everyone, I'm Artur, CTO at Laniko, a language AI startup from Poland, and today I'd like to show you the closed-loop localization pipeline that we've built in our Laniko MT platform, and how it can help to give translators and linguists better tools to use the knowledge and archives that they've been building over the decades. Okay. So, right now we see there is a real rip and replacement in the industry across multiple companies. The idea is just to swap the old stack for an LLM and you should be more or less done. But at the same time, well, you should also think about what gets thrown away while you're doing that. So these archives hold decades of expert decisions, such as approved translation, terminology, style of the brands, just sitting in hundreds of PDFs, Office files, etc. And raw large language model output ignores all of it. And it's usually pretty good and fluent, but at the same time generic and missing proper translation characteristics that you're looking for. At the same time, creating more difficult to catch errors and producing translation ease. And it also dilutes the brand voice, and well, still someone has to fix that. So it creates sometimes more corrective work and not less. So here's the workflow that we built around that idea. So first, extract translation memories and glossaries automatically from the documents you already have using our AI to properly align, review, and filter them. And then you can translate new projects with those resources actively in the loop. Then you can review the translations with the quality estimation that highlights and explains errors. And everything a human approves adapts the underlying AI on the fly without any need of retraining. So the next translation will already require less work. And the adaptations apply to all of the future translations, not just these 100% matches like in CAT tools, most of the CAT tools. So let me walk you through the 3 steps of the workflow. So step 1 is building the resources. Basically, you point the system at the parallel document you already have, PDF, Office, whatever. AI aligns the sentences across languages and extracts tempers and segments, and each of them is scored for quality. And then a linguist, a human, reviews them, accepts or rejects them entry by entry. And they can also use the automated fixes proposed by AI to correct the misaligned or sometimes some portion of the segment is not exactly translated in one document and the other. So this way you can get clean resources that you can use in further translations in hours instead of weeks. So step 2, the translation. First, we translate whole documents, not just isolated segments. The model sees the big picture, so tone and everything stays consistent from page 1 to the last. And second, while it works, we retrieve the most relevant translation memory entries and terminology and feed them to the model automatically. It adapts on the fly per customer instead of producing one generic flavor for everyone. After translation, you can export the translation document with whole layout preserved due to our custom visual language model-based document reconstruction, even for complex PDF scans. Your data also stays only with you, fully private, and if you prefer, you can also use most of our translation technology in CAD tools such as Trados or MemoQ. And we have built most of our things that are truly bespoke and not just wrappers and commercial models. Due to our research background, publishing at top venues every year for the last 5 years, and winning a few shared tasks, for example, General MT shared task at WMT22 or Terminology shared task at WMT25 conference. Okay. So step 3, review. Every segment gets a quality score with no reference translation needed. So reviewers, translators immediately know where to spend their attention. But the important part is that the errors in this case are interpretable. Each one is located precisely, classified with MQM categories and severity, and explained in plain language with suggested corrections. And then reviewers can apply fixes one by one with a single click or accept automated post-editing for a whole segment. And once the translation is finalized, then the corrections are automatically used to adapt the model and the loop goes back. So to close, in our opinion, adapting localization software to the AI era, in our opinion, does not mean starting from scratch. It means putting human in the center and giving linguists and translators the better tools to use the knowledge they have been building for decades. And if you would like to see this running on your own content, then please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. Yeah, so a different opinion to Anna earlier. Let's say she went with something new. You're saying, hold on a second, there are assets here that can work in the new world. Really interesting. Context guardrails were things that, came to mind as you were going through this. And, fuel for LLMs in many respects. And you focused a bit on that. How would you approach the universe of other context pieces, whether it's style guides, online data, and beyond just term bases and translation memories?
Yeah, I mean, we've been working heavily also in the research part and integration of this. So there are all different ways to integrate some different contexts. For example, right now, I think the biggest trend would be to integrate multimodal translation, especially taking into context some images that help to disambiguate the context in some occasions. I feel like it is especially important for cases like even some creative translation or even some e-commerce translation, where you have a lot of such disambiguities.
All right. Wonderful. Dave, do you have time for one more question?
Yeah, we have
one more?
Plenty of time, yeah.
All right, Arthur, this is amazing. Thank you very much. However, what I take away from it is that you expect some kind of legacy from, the clients and the prospects you are working with. How do you approach a case where there is zero legacy, where basically someone throws something over the wall and now do your thing?
I mean, in most cases, there are some resources, even though the customers don't even know they have them, such as, for example, they have websites or some informations, documents, even monolingual ones that they have been collecting over the years. They just don't have it in proper format or properly aligned, etc. We run into companies that have already been working, like translating manually things for 10 years or 15 years, but they don't have it anywhere like combined and that they could use. So before there was always a lot of work of manually creating these resources, and right now I think the main our approach would be to help them create something out of it.
Right.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah, it reminds me of a story one time. Someone told me we have a storeroom full of documents You know, I said, okay, yeah, they're printed and it's ceiling to floor high, right, of documents. So great use of assets, sounds like, and good luck with that. We have to move on, Arthur. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a million. And great. And let's invite our next one. So Viveta, great to see you on this stage. Over to you when you're ready.
So thank you very much. Great to see you. And fluent is the same as correct in regulated industries. And until now, nobody could prove the difference before it became expensive. The cost here is not about quality score. Regulated industries like pharma, medical devices, cosmetics, fintech face real consequences. Regulatory fines, product recalls, market bans, a mistranslated safety warning doesn't just miss a review checkpoint, it can block a market launch. And the root cause is simple. LLMs optimize for fluency, not for what's legally permitted to stay in a given market. Here's what KGMT gives you. For the first time, accuracy, fluency, and compliance simultaneously on every segment with a traceable audit trail. You can enter regulated markets with confidence instead of hope. You produce compliance reports automatically, not by assembling evidence after the fact. And the economics are simple. One product recall in a regulated sector costs between 100,000 euros and over 1 million euros. KGMT prevents the error before it ships, and that is the game. Let me put a number on that. Without a system that understands the regulation, the cost of compliant output, including what happens when errors reach the market, is 5.2 times higher. We didn't try to build a better prompt, we built a process. KGMT is a 5-stage production workflow that sits between your source content and your LLM. Step 1, domain knowledge elicitation. Before a single sentence gets translated, we sit with the client's regulatory and compliance team and map what's actually permitted, terminology, claims, jurisdictional limits. Step 2, knowledge graph construction implemented on Crowdin's platform for now or with any tool, engineered with lead semantics and Langoptima. Every permitted term, every constraint, every cross-jurisdictional rule encoded and queryable. Step 3, style guide injection. The graph is injected into the LLM as a structured prompt grounded in the client's actual style guide, not a generic one. Step 4, two-level flagging. KGMT checks every output against the graph and tells you which kind of error already in the source or introduced by the translation. And step 5, an audit-ready compliance report generated automatically. So let's see what linguists actually see. 3 scores per segment: compliance, accuracy, fluency. Judged separately, every flag traces back to a rule citation. And now you can see segment 6, reverses visible signs of auto-aging prohibited under EU Article 20. Both the source and the translation are blocked. The KG chain is right there, reverses, medicinal verb, EU Article 20, prohibited block. This is a source inherited error. The fix has to start upstream. Next, segment 3, 1% retinol, above the ACCS safety limit. The mandatory pregnancy advisory was missing from the source. The graph auto-injected it before translation started. And that is not post-editing, that is the regulation inside the workflow. Next, segment 1, product title, no claim, green pass, 99% accuracy, 99% fluency. The system does not just catch violations, it confirms that is safe. That confirmation on every segment is what audit ready looks like. And next, phase 1, baseline detection at 24%. After 3 enhancements, expanded ontology, style guide injection, lemmatization, detection recall reached 100% across every violation in both Greek and French. TQS 100, 31 out of 31 violations detected. And the 2 baseline LLMs, 0 recall. This is not a better score from a lucky prompt. It is the same process, run again, producing the same result. And that is what audit ready actually means. Next, this works because it is not a one-off build. Crowding, for now, implements it inside the CAT environment teams already use. Let semantics and lag optima engineer the graph layer. Lockwise, by intertranslations, integrates and architects the full solution in one platform. Ionian University validates it academically. It is CAT tool agnostic and domain agnostic. And the question was never whether a large language model can translate regulated content. Of course it can, fluently, confidently, and sometimes wrong in ways nobody catches until it is expensive. The real question is whether you can prove it got it right. Knowledge graph mediated translation is that proof built into the process every time. Thank you very much.
Iveta, thank you very much. The pace was very high, but I liked it. Thank you very much. Yeah, a follow-up question. Knowledge graphs. So interesting. As a technology, knowledge graphs aren't really new, yet adoption in the language industry is relatively low. Can you explain that? Why is that happening?
Because we're in a transformation age, one. Second, because it is an expensive sport. So it means that we need to understand the value of it because it is data science. And based on NACOF and based on the research, we have data, information, knowledge, wisdom. So right now we realize that what LLMs miss is the knowledge to have the wisdom or the expertise that is needed over. And this is where we go. Second thing, it is to understand what is the investment in knowledge graphs, that this is built once, it is maintained, but it stays forever. And this is something that will save a lot of money for many errors not to be produced and for many markets to be saved, many products to be safely launched.
Great. I've actually a related questions to that. Firstly, the content is safe test. I love that. Really cool way of just shifting perspectives. So to that point on the cost of creating those, per client domain and the potential, expense attributed to that, how scalable or extensible is that?
How much expensive is that? This what you asked?
How scalable and
How
extensible?
scalable?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is CAT tool agnostic and domain agnostic, meaning that every time you want to open a new market, you can do that. There is a basic layer of the graph, and over that layer, you can build as many as you want. So it is scalable and it is extensible, and you can do as many as you wish. It is based on the documentation that you want to load. It is based on the markets that you want to open.
Excellent. A great answer. And Vivek, you're always coming up with new things. Always great to see them. Thank you for sharing this one. Can't wait to see what's next. And with that, that's us done. We have a quick poll that we'd like to launch, Jourik. Thanks, Vivek. Shall we get that launched real quick? Do we have time for that?
I think so.
All right. I don't know if Jill is... Yeah, here you go. So you can go into Mentee, give us your feedback on that. So it's not a competition, but it's maybe an idea resonated with you. We'd love to hear your voice on that and let us know. So feel free to join in there.
Stephen, Jourik, thank you so very much for bringing together a wonderful group of first candidates or day 2 candidates. We can't wait to see what you have in store for us tomorrow.
Yeah, it's like keep it
Absolutely.
going, Stefan, isn't it? And we'll let people just fill in their thoughts on what resonates. Maybe we can share results later, so folks keep going.
We should check in and maybe by tomorrow we'll have a very good idea as well. So maybe we can start your segment with this with a little review of the results of today tomorrow. Thank you so very much, and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow for the second segment of the Innovation Challenge. And I'm super excited to transition into the next segment, which is going to be a segment with Priscila Mottola, whom I've interviewed just a couple of weeks ago. She works for KnowBe4, and she's going to present on actionable intelligence. Maria, what else can you tell us about Priscila's presentation?
Well, Priscila, she's the director of language quality at KnowBe4, and usually we always talk about quality, but the bigger question is, how do you know where to focus your attention when you're managing thousands or even millions of data points? So that's exactly what Priscila has been working on, and she's here today to let us know how her team approaches it. So Priscila, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you so much. I will start by sharing my screen here. Thank you for the intro. I do work at KnowBe4. We're a digital security workforce security platform, and at KnowBe4, I'm responsible for quality across millions of users and 35 plus languages. But this is a backstage story. This is about something that we tried, what broke, and what we learned along the way. So I do want to keep that perspective in mind as we go through this. So let me kick it off by saying that we had a scale problem. We were dealing with tens of millions of users across our platform every month. Like I mentioned, 35 plus languages and millions of user data points on a monthly basis as well, taking our survey at the end of each training module and giving us data to work with on whether they enjoyed the content or not. But how could we know what was actually working if we couldn't listen to the users at this scale? So the data existed. We had the user ratings, we had the comments, we had engagement, but volume alone really made it unmanageable by hand. And making sense of the data fast enough was really what we were trying to solve here. The way that we used to do things was very manual. So let's take, for instance, a training module. So this is, by training module, I mean in the e-learning context, Spanish module. Someone flags a potential concern. We would have to pull usage data from Looker to understand how popular that training module was. Then we would pull the ratings for Spanish specifically to understand if that comment that was flagged resonated across all the users. Then we would pull the ratings across all the languages to understand how that compared to all of the language ratings, right? How the module was doing in general. And then we would pull user comments and then manually stitch all of that in Excel. You can imagine how fun that was. So it was a lot of manual work to get to a point where we got the insight, right? And it would take 3 to 5 full working days, because obviously that was our only priority. We had other things going on, QA testing to do, other things that would come up. So we weren't on this all the time. So 3 to 5 full working days was pretty average. I would say even on the low end, we would go a little bit longer sometimes, depending on priorities, where we just couldn't sit there for that long. But each additional language that we looked at would take another couple of days diving into the data. So very manual, started off in Looker Studios, Excel, comment review by hand. And we ultimately figured out that the consequence of this wasn't just being slow. It wasn't just being operationally slow. It was strategic blindness. We weren't able to make decisions quick enough that actually gave us confidence in the direction we were heading in when it came to quality. We had the vendor scorecards. We knew linguistically how we were doing, but how could I really know if that reflected on what the user was thinking? And that gap killed me. It would just drive me insane thinking about, like, we really have to be able to answer this question more quickly. And when you're on reactive mode, when it comes to quality assurance, you're always behind. You can't proactively prioritize. You can't really build a roadmap from a position of confidence, and you're choosing which fires to fight, right? We don't want to be in that position. So starting with the right question is really what made us pivot. We didn't set out to build a product. It wasn't like, oh, I know, let's build a platform and have this sorted out. No, we we were trying to get to the right question. We tried to, remove the bottleneck. And that distinction kept the focus on the problem and not the technology. We weren't trying to figure out which tool to use. We were really trying to get to the bottom of what was the root cause and what was the problem we were trying to fix. And, what if we could ask the data anything in minutes rather than days or weeks, which is what we were taking, like this, the time that we were taking on this. And like I said, the data was already there. We had the data. We were the bottleneck, and the tool was kind of an afterthought. We had to get to the right question first. So the reason why we built internally instead of bought, right? We actually built a platform to help us analyze feedback at scale, analyze all of these data points from our users at scale. And there's always the build versus buy question, right? We didn't quite think that there was a solution out there that could really tailor to our needs. We had the data in Snowflake already. We didn't have to migrate. And oftentimes at an enterprise level, that will be a huge constraint. Like you're trying to, get a business case going, you're trying to involve other stakeholders, and the less you need to move and migrate, the better, the more approval you'll get, right? We had Streamlit as one of the apps within Snowflake where we could build this and put this together. No new infrastructure to set up. And we were able to curate our data set within Snowflake. Our data model was already there. Generic dashboards weren't really going to cut it because we had very specific data that we were capturing over all this time. We were going through the manual process, which means we were doing the brain work to get to what we needed. We just couldn't scale it fast enough. One thing worth naming is I was the product owner in this. I wasn't the engineer, so I'm not going to get too technical on how to build this. But I drove the requirements and the use case, and then our data team built it. And we, it was just a very joint effort there in getting the back and forth going to build this out. So let me introduce you to what happened and what we built. We call it Mod Insight just because our library is called a mod store. It's a store for our training modules. So this is what we capture, right? So the users at the end of each training module, they rate us on helpfulness of content, length of content, and presentation of content. We're not asking them how well they like the translation because we don't want them to even know it's a translation. We just want them to see it as content, right? And then, so each of these categories have a score out of 5. And then those scores together will get like a general average, right, for that person who rated us. And we work from 2 different baselines, the average per module across all languages and the average per language across the full library. These are the 2 main pillars that we work off to understand how we're doing quality-wise. So the first layer at the quantitative level, it basically runs statistical comparisons across every module and language combination automatically and flags the meaningful deviations. So we work off of z-scores to surface these outliers across the languages and across the modules. And then the average from these different z-scores based on these 2 parameters give us the combined coefficient, the combined quality coefficient. And that's basically our quality score. That's what we work off of. From the deviation out of those averages, trying to find the outlier. And that makes us focus on the right problems. Otherwise, everything becomes a problem, right? And then we go to the layer that is qualitative, and that's where we use generative AI, where they, that layer reads through the thousands of comments and it organizes what users are actually saying by theme, providing evidence. And obviously, the more data, the more feedback we get from the users, the more accurate it'll be, the better it'll be. That data set really defines how far we can get into the insights. But together, these 2 layers answer both where the problem is and what the problem is. And we work with them at the same level, giving each of them enough attention to really continue asking the right questions as we analyze the insights. And this is kind of what it looks like. These are just a few screenshots. I didn't want to do a live demo because you know how those go. It ends up freezing, and so I didn't want to jinx it. But I pulled a couple of screenshots the first one here, just to give you a few examples, we can filter by language, by content team, by actual training module, and immediately see the rating trend over time. So you can filter it by month, by year, and just the amount of period that the amount of time that you want, without having to pull all those Looker reports and do that manually on Excel. And that's pretty useful to us. We can get the language performance in this other graph here, a plotted graph by volume and deviation from the average. So those red dots in the middle there, the middle image, they're below the line. They're kind of the priorities there because they're deviating from the average. And also we really want to look at the amount, the volume of feedback we're getting from the users, which means it's a pretty popular training module. We want to understand how users are seeing it. And the third image there shows just an example, same logic, but applied to a content team level. So pulling the negative outliers, so which content teams need attention in certain languages, and which ones are actually doing really well. They're doing excellently well in other languages too. So these are some of the graphs, some of the data that the visualizations that we pull together just automatically in our platform. And so the days to minutes is really what we gained from this, being able to not have to start from scratch every time. And even with some automation that we were able to implement manually, it was still quite a hassle. So the time savings, they're real, but they're not even the central point. So what we really gained is when it takes minutes instead of days, you stop waiting for something to break, right? You stop being so reactive to concerns actually escalating as tickets, and you start asking questions proactively. We start asking questions, thinking of future content that we want to make. So we're going from reactive to more of a preventive mode, trying to prevent these concerns or these negative feedback points from, continuing to arise. The last row on this table, I think, is one of the most important gains that we had from this, is the shared accountability, right? It just wasn't a localization tool anymore. It wasn't about just understanding localization quality. This platform to us became something that content teams use to see global performance in general. And that shared ownership is truly valuable. So how do we close the loop now? This is where the data really starts making sense and earning its keep in a way, because Mod Insight became not just a dashboard that people might remember or not. It feeds the real planning process. So we get the output from it. I sit with the content teams a couple of times a year. They're accessing it, regularly, but I sit with them and go over insights at a global level. Based on language, based on markets, we're able to kind of, use segmentation like that. And then they have their own meetings as well, where they're then processing that feedback and making their future plans based on it, right? And they're getting that approved at just a higher leadership level and building out next year's roadmap based on this feedback. So closing that feedback loop has been really, really valuable to us as well. And none of this was possible before at this scale, not because, again, the data didn't exist, because it did, but processing it took too long. So this democratized access to quality data, and that change of ownership and accountability, really, the effects of that give us a lot more than we were even aiming for, right? We have that outlier detection, making sure that we're focusing on the right problems and not everything becomes a fire you have to put out. We have that shared accountability, and we have roadmaps based on data. We're not just guessing, even if it's educated guessing. We're not just going on a whim or based on what one stakeholder said. We can actually base these decisions on user insights at scale, and we can pull that up to provide arguments at a C-level even, to the C-suite. And that's been really valuable as well. But it's not all rosy and flowers. Every tool, has limits. Obviously, with GenAI, you have a risk of hallucination. We have built parameters in place to to try to eliminate that, or at least reduce that. So when we need to dive into the insights, we actually run the insights through another LLM with the verbatim comments export. And then we validate those insights, tying them back directly to which comments they come from. That gives us some more context into the amount of data that led to the insights that we're looking at. There's also uneven data volume by language, and we're used to that. We know that, usage won't be the same across markets and languages. So the more usage we get, the more comments we get from users, obviously the better, the more sound the feedback will be. That's not always the case. So we do run into limitations, and sometimes we don't have enough data. We try to be statistically significant and only analyze comments from modules that have gotten at least 100 survey responses. But sometimes we're still on the low end, or sometimes we get even more, but not enough comments to really know the what of what's wrong. You know what I mean? And then obviously there's also the fragility of being in a corporate world where we're navigating stakeholder changes, we're navigating tool changes. We've had to face this ourselves. You have to keep on advocating for it and ensuring that people understand the ROI we're getting from it. So it's just constant engagement and constant evangelization about it. So takeaways, one thing that we've really, really learned is that every team probably has a question that takes 3 days to answer manually. If you find that question, that's where your version of this can really kick off. It's not with the technology, not with the budget ask, but with the right question. And then using what's already in your stack. That's easier to get wins from stakeholders and from the teams, from IT, from everyone else. And as usual, we've learned time and time again that AI scales human judgment. It doesn't replace it. So everything that we see now in our platform and Mod Insight still requires a human to interpret and required a human to think of. It wasn't AI telling us what to put on the platform. We'd gone through the process manually, so we knew what to actually get out of it as well. What's next for us? I talked a little bit about being, reactive, responsive, and more preventive, and eventually predictive, right? We want to get this to be more agentic. Right now, I'll tell you, we're in the hurdle of changing stakeholders and understanding who's going to own the data side of this right now. And so that's always something to fight for. But every step on this arc was only reachable because we started asking the right questions and then using the data that we already had. That's still the foundation, regardless of how autonomous the system becomes. And we're on this track. And thank you for your attention. I'd love to ask what your journey in data has been, and take any questions that you might have about this.
Priscila, I was so excited to watch you today because you gave me a primer a couple of weeks ago, and now I've gotten a bunch more information. I have a bunch more follow-up questions. So I'm chomping at the bit, but I know Jan's been monitoring the YouTube feed. Are there any questions in the YouTube feed, Jan?
Exactly. So thanks a lot. Incredible presentation. Right now, I think everybody is like a little bit, wow, what kind of information and the depth of your presentation. So guys, prepare your questions. I'm reading the chats online on YouTube. If you're out there, just drop your comments, your questions in the chat, and I will read them to Priscila. Stefan, go on with your questions while we wait if there's coming something in there.
Yeah, when Priscila and I started talking about this a couple of weeks ago, I immediately realized that this is kind of the thing that we've been waiting for, being able to use our multilingual data points to mine them for actionable insights, so to speak. So one of the things that I really am super interested in is how Know-Before actually connects the language performance with the actual user experience. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, Priscila? And I'm particularly looking for insights that will spark the imagination of our audience to do the same kind of thing, because we've been talking for a couple of years now about shifting left and getting upper management involved and interested in language services. This could really unlock it, I think.
Yeah, that's honestly, it's still a challenge, I'll say, to make that direct connection. What we've found is that we see the uptick organically. We see the, the uptick in the ratings when we start going left a little bit more. But there's a layer that we still want to add to this that I think is important to call out, where there are cultural differences in how people even take surveys. Right. And so some regions we have come to expect, and that's why we work off deviations, because some regions are very easy to rate highly. Even it's interesting, like if you get usually a Latin American language, Spanish, Latam, the comment might even say, oh, this was wrong, but the rating is high. It's like a 5.0. You will not find that in German or Japanese. You're going to find the exact opposite, where they're like great content in the comments, and then it's like a 3.5. You know what I mean? So that dissonance exists, and we're actually looking into how to bake that into the calculations. But it is why we work off deviations, and why we're not working solely off of one average out of 5. We're working off of the language average deviation and the module deviation, because sometimes the content is just not good enough, even in English, right? So it's not just a language issue or a language specific experience, it's just the content experience. And we're really intentionally blurring the lines between localization and content. We're just really intentionally calling it global content rather than just this is the localized piece of the content, because user experience does not separate the two things. They rate us on presentation, length, and helpfulness, no matter the language they take it in. You know what I mean?
And the more data you have, probably the better or the easier it becomes to mine it in a certain way. Is there a risk of drowning in data? And if anybody is at the start of this type of an exercise, do you have any tips and advice for them to not get bogged down in the quicksand?
There is the risk. We're often on it, drowning in data. Some of our really popular modules, Mod Insight breaks trying to analyze the amount of data we get. If we do it over a longer period, like over a year, give me data on this module in this language over a year, it will sometimes break because it's so much data. So what we've also found over time is that the sample sizes, statistically significant sample sizes, will basically replicate what the overall data set would give you. And you can trust that. Usually what helps us is then going into just a narrow period. Let's just go over the past 30 days or past 90 days, past 6 months. Rather than trying to get the full scope, it won't really change much. If you go from like past, 90 days to a full year, the deviation doesn't really change that much for you to like, okay, no, I need the full data set. So I think survey methodology, diving into that a little bit more and getting some more knowledge in that really helps, because then you're able to approach things from a statistical significant, viewpoint, rather than just like, oh, it's too much data to work with. So start small, work with like narrow periods of time, and then when you're able to replicate that in a smaller scale, start growing and gradually, picking up more data as you go.
What's the most important signal, Priscila, that you should track? And maybe there's more than one, but what are some of the ones that you can say that's low-hanging fruit? Concentrate on that if you had to start.
So some of the things that we have found also more valuable are things that if you find that across different languages, people are leaving comments at the exact same point, their experience is breaking at the exact same point, that's something to watch for, because it usually means, and they're not going to specify it that much in the comments, like maybe you're looking for something very linguistic and very specific. The user isn't really going to know that that's what you're looking for. They're just going to comment on their experience. But if something is breaking in the experience in the same point for everyone across languages, there's usually a source problem. There's usually something that's easy to fix that kind of like will trickle down into all the languages as well.
Yeah. Is there any further feedback from the chat or the YouTube channel? This is, you know, I suspect that the audience is so quiet about this because this is a really refreshing topic that we don't handle very often, and it doesn't really connect directly to translation, so to speak. It really breaks us out of the translation box. It's what we've been trying to do for a long time, isn't it, Priscilla?
Yeah. I actually see a comment here in the chat that resonates exactly with this point, right? Like, happy to hear about the possibilities for localization specialists to show value to the business. This is exactly what got us on this path. I will say it started out with people need to know that my team specialists are not just looking at language. They're actual market experts, and they're here to partner with sales. We've gotten on calls with the CSMs in our company to reduce churn, to stop people from leaving over a mistake or a typo they found in a couple of modules. We're here to like show up and say, listen, we have a robust team of market experts, and those we can fix easily because we know our audience give us, you know what I mean? So we're joining these conversations to reduce churn, to help grow usage in the content. And that's actually how we calculated ROI for this and got the buy-in.
Yeah, Yevgenia is asking, did you try to create personas?
So we're on that right now. So yeah, yes, and we've tried a couple of ways. It's so hard because the data is not always consistent across languages. So we have to be a little bit careful too, to not go into a biased direction. And, you know, it's just a lot of tweaking here and there. We still want it to be more flexible so that we can really change the prompt as we go and not have it, you know, be so rigid. But we are looking into it, especially as we think about different language groups across different markets.
All right, Priscilla, we can't thank you enough. Maybe you'll come give us an update in one of the upcoming
I hope
conferences.
So.
And
Thank you.
This was really fascinating. We're going to move on to Pavel's Kraken adventure. Maria, what can you tell us about what Pavel is going to present?
Sure, thank you very much. So I think our next speaker, he's the head of localization and geogrowth. And every once in a while, there's someone who asks a question that changes the conversation completely. And that's exactly what Pavel Trysmakou did. Instead of asking how AI could fit into a localization process that was already existing, he asked, how would localization look like if it were designed with AI in mind since the very beginning? And I see that Pavel is ready. So Pavel, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. So I'll start sharing my screen. Hope everything is okay. So let's go. Hi, everyone, once again. My name is Pavel. I'm director of content localization Simple, and for the next, I hope, 25 minutes, let me start my stopwatch. I want to show you Kraken. So, we built it from scratch in a team of 2, me and the software engineer, and as an AI native localization ecosystem, and we built it to move non-US business numbers and unlock more potential for localization growth engine. So, so in a nutshell, it started with a business problem in mind, and a few years ago, it's about 90% of our revenue came from the United States. The rest of the world fought over the other 10%, and to change that, we needed far more localized content for far more markets. And we were not going to triple the team to get it. And the best example to show is the statistics on the approach for marketing creatives, localization, and for specific user acquisition, team requests for paid acquisition, paid social channels. And I will stick to this narrative alongside the whole presentation, but you can just simply replace user acquisition team with any other team that requires localization, like product, content, growth, whatsoever. And so get back to paid social creatives, 30 to 4 a week creatives built by hand. They look really great with perfect marketing copy and with proper localization design. And they cost a lot and they took forever time to produce. Firstly, by marketing copywriter, secondly, by designer. For a company that wanted thousands of creative variants per market, 40 a week is nothing. So, and here's the belief I had to drop first. Our industry loves to talk about craft and nuance. So my question back is simple. Like, show me the user who needs that translation, localization, internationalization nuances. And like a 40-plus woman, for example, opens a health app in Japan. She comes for relevance and speed. She's not reading copy for the draft. And she comes for the app through the creative to solve her problem with health, nutrition, and whatsoever. So, like, one problem. And once we accepted that in the localization team, everything about the old stack started to look wrong. And we ran a lot of experiments, A/B tests, graphic adaptation things with tons of creative copy variation, but none of them significantly worked, to be honest. But one thing worked definitely in this approach. It was scaling production capacity. We went from 40 creatives a week around to 2,000 a week, same team. And our share of revenue outside the US climbed from 10 to 40%. And the system tracks what it saves us against doing the work in the old way. And the thing happened. Localization stopped being the line item finance team wants to cut, and it became a bet that pays for itself. And it started as a localization platform. Kraken, it started as a localization problem. So today it runs closer to an operating system for multilingual growth. And a localization platform answers just like, I guess, one question. How do we translate the strings? And Kraken answers a different one. How do we ship more markets? And faster at a cost that lets growth and user acquisition team, for example, keep scaling. And the practical version of that, when our user acquisition team wants to test a new market, they just simply create localization request. They do not wait in a queue, all the process set up in the fast growth baseline, and like with all the A/B tests and experimentations process, for example. But in this case, new market expansion is some sort of huge A/B test. And that single change is most of the story, to be honest. And yeah, and so first of all, Kraken is not a model. It's an ecosystem. It's like the huge organism. And this model is just like one brain, and Kraken is the organism around it. And four main nodes, Basilisk is AI MT core and machine translation core, prompts per language, glossaries, style guides, model routing, RAGs, and whatever. Kentaurus is a translation management system and editor. And this is basically the human workspace, like cat editor, the translation memory, feedback loop, and the Sentinel core is where is like quality gate for Kraken, and it scores every output, decides what needs human. Scoring can be based on your custom rules or MQM, TAUs, or whatever scoring system. And the final Voyager node is localization analytics, plus market research. For example, for specific user acquisition and growth teams, we scrap from Meta, TikTok ads libraries for some insights. And on top of that sits the part of product team's touch, like a headless content management system as the source of truth with all the configs, strings. Hermes, it's basically connector with Figma Kraken for static creatives, and Echo is our video and dubbing model for localization and video creatives. And so the volume is the combination of ecosystem work in all the modules. And this is the one idea I wanted to live with, and then I will show it to you. So yeah, and for each language, you draw a chain of an agents. First model does the draft, for example, for like draft translation. The second model proofreads scoring step, grades the results, and then it either ships or goes to the human in the loop, like to a real person. And you are not locked into anything. Like any engine at any step, you can add whatever you want to any step, like conditions, aggregators, notifications, whatsoever. And when a beta model, for example, released from Anthropic, I don't know, or OpenAI, you swap that one agent and leave the rest alone. And each language can run its own chain pipeline, and you can customize to whichever content task your pipeline need. And so here's a video and the screen capture from Kraken on the actual linguist pipeline creation. You simply add and drag nodes into a chain router, agent per language, per work mode, output, aggregator, endpoint. And so here you can create any pipeline with any steps you want. For example, first AI node for translator, second for proofreader. You can add to another AI node rags, style guides, glossaries, to any translator, proofreader nodes for the language. And on the agent node, you're picking needed prompt, and to this prompt, you're setting the needed LLM engine, and with all the models inside, like Anthropic, OpenAI, DeepSeek, Vertex, Kimi, GLM, or you can add here your custom model, for example, or any multi-model gateway like OpenRouter or Requesty. And when a provider ships a new version, it shows up here the same day, and you wrote to it without touching anything else. So into AI agent localization setup, you can add also empty node with DeepL, Google Translate, if you need it. And after that, all goes to aggregator and combines all the languages on the final output and pushes localized strings to the next step. It can be human in the loop step or send back directly to team which requested localization. Here is the video, and this one is the part with creative localization in Figma, like Hermes. This is the part which goes after your creative pipeline, for example. And for this specific part, for localization of static creatives or any other content in Figma, we have, this is basically Figma connector to Kraken. And how it works, it's, for example, you have frames which should be localized. You pick the target languages, you send to Kraken. We render the frame and send the images to the model, see the whole creatives with the lists of strings. So the full context of the creatives is pushed into AI. And after translation in Kraken is done, you just apply localization back with all the necessary frames, and all these frames are automatically created, like just showed to you. And after that, in most of the cases, you will have layout issues with the text. And on this case, we have layout fix, and you simply push the necessary buttons in plugin, and it applies auto layout fixes where it's necessary. And you spend on localizations of the static creative somewhere around 2 or 3 minutes. And under the hood with auto layouts is LLM, which scans frames and applies design fixes according to the new localization and to the source core designs. So with this feature, your designers stop in wasting time on manual jobs. And as I said, here can be not just like creatives, static creatives, here can be your workbooks or whatever Figma content you want to use and to localize. And that all sounds nice, yeah, but you can ask me about where is the human here. And well, first I should say that to my opinion, the weak version of human in the loop is a person just like rubber stamping AI outputs. So everywhere, everyone feels safe. And I think that's not the way we should go further with localization. And if the system flags of you, or you put in your pipeline that for this work you need human touch, your reviewer receives this task in Kraken translation management system, Kentauros, and opens the localized text in the editor and corrects it before anything goes live. Like LQA gate is the scoring node, and it sends anything under the bar to a person. And light touch for example, for high volume of user acquisition static creatives, and heavy touch on some growth specific paywall on or user interfaces or whatever you need for this heavy touch of human. And every edit and linguist makes feeds back into the prompts. And the feedback loop is just like fully yours and fully customizable. And it's what makes the system fully yours and fully customizable for your specific needs. And like system calculates the translation editing metric, like the percentage of changes made to the AI generated string. Terminology mining, like term instruction. For example, if system detects a systematic replacement of one word with another, raises alert to language model and to localization manager, and you can just apply it or not. And dynamic prompts and style guides and a rack tuning, like a weekly background process, usually weekly, where Vasilisk's AI MT core of Kraken takes a batch of strings with the highest translation editing rate and analyzes why humans rewrote them. And if our AIMT node notices linguists consistently making text shorter or more informal, it raises an alert to adjust the system prompts for the project, for this specific project, for this specific pipeline, and or language, for example, in this pipeline, and raises alerts to localization manager. And on the top of that, self-learning rules, we programmed it by design here. If 90% of linguists, for example, ignore a specific automatic check in our LQA system, Sentinel, it automatically downgrade the rule priority to warning or disable or exclude it, and notifying the localization manager and review the Sentinel analyzer prompt. Yeah, and the next video is about video creatives localization pipeline. It's Node Echo. And here is your firstly create pipeline for video localization. Simply, you just create it once and swap the needed tools from time to time you need it. And the node, like video to text extraction, which is usually executed by Whisper AI. And on this step, the system also recognized the gender of person who speaks and number of person in video and formed the speech into appropriate strings with needed gender. And that goes translate. And after that goes translation node. This is where this extracted text pushes to Kraken localization. And after that goes node with text to speech. And here we usually use 11 labs, but you can choose, and in 11 labs, you can choose male and female voices for localization. And the final touch is lip sync node, where you actually create needed lip sync for all the people which are speaking in the video. And usually it's done through SyncSolo or service, but you can add here any service you like. Maybe you like HeyGen, okay, you can add HeyGen here for lip sync. And after that, you just select your needed video, your needed languages, and watch the simultaneous tasks run. And for tasks for subtitles, for script localization, for voiceovers, for lip sync. And in final states, Echo combines all the generated results and merges them back into one final video. And that's basically it. You can simply you can simply, with Echo, create all the necessary localized assets and make your video creative production advance in speed and stop doing manual job in Adobe Premiere, for example, or After Effects. Yep. And quality, let's talk about that. And so, I think that's the most of uncomfortable part here. So in digital B2C, quality rarely decides whether localization works. For the business, so we split content by what is at stake. And on the left, we automate end-to-end, like user acquisition statics, most marketing. That content lives mostly few hours in user acquisition campaigns. And speed here is the main value. So when good enough for us is around 60 out of 100% of quality. And that's totally fine. So, and on the right, we keep human clause on paywalls, on web funnels, on sensitive user interfaces, and anything wired to money or medical content, for example, that needs huge and deep proofread. And there we slow down and we get it right with proper human in the loop in Kraken. And the rule is simple, to be honest here, like the higher the stakes per string, the more human attention it gets. And the more disposable the content, the more we automate. And the line that I guess upsets most of the linguists, that voice translation really often performs better in marketing. I just like speaking about user acquisition and marketing. That's just like a pure numbers. We ran a lot of A/B tests and experiments, and the awkward phrasing draws a comment. The comment is engagement. The algorithm shows the creative to more people, the cost per action drops. And in digital growth, the audience and the algorithm decides what good means, sadly. That's, and the style guide and the translation quality here in paid Sage algorithms does not work and does not get a vote for most of the times. And how it was built, like two of us built this since December 2025. Like I ran Kraken like a product manager, and with me on the start was just like one engineer. We do not write, and I do not write like 30-page specs for some new cool feature for Kraken, for example. I talk to directly to Codebase through an internal tool called Reef. We developed this tool prior Kraken, and most of the features in Kraken. And this tool asks me questions, drafts a plan and the code, and our engineer refine it and ship. And the new feature release for Kraken takes about 1 day. Like something, if there is some bug and functionality is not what we are expected, or we need to adjust some features for new specific requests. So we just like basically we are limited by in Kraken development by our imagination and business needs. Okay, let's speak about businesses. Yeah, we are limited about just like business needs. And a few years ago, I imagined such project can feel like a multi-year project for large teams. For me, that build speed is the bigger AI story than translation quality, and I guess that will be our reality of localization in the next year and the next years. And the more humanity advances in AI technologies, the more faster local industry will advance and ship in such specific products like Kraken, I guess. And what I think about Localizer of 2030, so what happens to the people who are actually doing the translation work? I think, to be honest, the role gets even better and bigger. And the Localizer will look like, I guess, more like UX designer for a copy. And smaller team, more senior teams, and they will not call themselves just like pure translators. They will own a specific market and who the target user of product is, what tone of style guide, what tone of voice converts, which local trends to write this week. And so the role will be much more connected to the business metrics, which actually drives revenue. And product metrics such as like conversion, churn rate, retention, and whatsoever. And the agents, AI agents, will do mechanical translations, and the human designs the country-specific experience and feeds insights back and watch the product and growth metrics for the specific market, just like grow. In simple, we already hire for this. We call such position as language leads with the contract payments, and we have language leads for each language who do such specific work. And so with that shift, there will be more and better work in our industry, I guess. And I'm thinking that this job will be much more valued and paid as user experience local designer than just translators right now. And I guess the final slide, if you take one thing from this talk like this and pick one just like business metric, your sale already tracks, and connected your work to it this quarter. And it can be revenue from market, ROAS in the region, time to market. I guess we need to skip finally cost per word or localization savings or whatsoever connected to linguistic nerdy metrics. No one from executive or C-suite level feels and needs these metrics. And for us, it was time to market and non-US revenue. And we cut user acquisition creative localization from 3 or 4 days to 1. And we started to track the actual revenue increase and increasing the total shipped user acquisition creatives to market, walking in a room, and you just like walking in a room with localization opened this market and saved this much time and efforts, changes a lot of attitude, how executive sees your team, and no budget requests does that. And final slide, one last thing, and Kraken is SDK contract and API-based SaaS, and you can plug it into your own stack, send strings, user interface, static or video creatives, and content. It can be content for books, whatever, and get back localized output through your own customized AI agent pipelines with human in the loop and your customized QA gates. So we have our first external partners and already building pipelines. And so if you want maybe to try Kraken or build on localization, so just contact me. We are on the alpha stage right now, but we know that we are doing and know how to make localization work aligned with the business needs. So that's all. Thank you. Hope I get your attention and my screen time was useful for you.
You got our attention, Pavel. All right, you're finally one of these people that have built the ecosystem that we've all been thinking about, and we're very impressed with that. Jan, is there any YouTube questions that we can throw Pavel's way?
Well, Pavel, I don't know if question is the right thing here. It's more about comments. So we have a lot of like emojis looking in the camera like, oh gosh, then we have the human translator will be like going away. I think you scared people off a little bit.
No fear here. Human translators just like evolve in UX designers for a specific market. It's much more profitable job and it's much more interesting.
Maybe this is a good question, Jan, that we can ask Pavel. Given that you've put this ecosystem together right now, what localization workflows do you see disappearing entirely, and which ones are remaining surprisingly resistant, in your opinion?
Well, I guess a lot of companies just like doing translations so far right now only in Google spreadsheets. That's, I guess, a common sense. And I guess most of the companies will do that for maybe the next 5 years. But I guess if we are talking about more advanced system with localization, I guess just like the system with the translation management system where you need to pay for translation memory words or you need to pay for cost per word, translation will disappear really, really soon, I guess. Because, well, with the approach of AI agents and machine translation, like run the pipelines of the mechanical job, we are just like in simple, we already switching for per hour work for UX design of localization, and I guess that stack for localizer will just like be the next step of evolvement. I guess all the payments in translation management systems right now for translation memory usage will be just like disappeared with all the AI advanced coding systems. I guess that.
I think this goes very much in line with the cost to zero predictions we heard yesterday from Jourik. It's the same thing. So cost. So tokens are rising, and we have to be aware of that. And at one point, we might see tokens more expensive than a human translator, and then we might go back. Let me ask you two questions here from the chat. Sasha asked, any plans for linguists market in the Kraken? I don't know exactly. And can you work with text that's already generate inside an image?
So for the first question, I guess it's a question more about marketplace for linguists. So far, as I said, so far it's on alpha stage of SaaS development, and we do have such kind of a marketplace for linguists, but it's not the first priority. So we just like focused on the solving localization problems and solving, to be honest, first of all, a revenue problem with the scaling of user acquisition assets localization, like static and video creatives. And when we will do this fully automatically and fully right, with all the auto layout fixes, with all the auto layout fixes in videos and static, then we will push to more like expand into marketplace for linguists / UX designers for copy. And the second question, I forgot about the second question.
The second question was about can you already work with text that's already generated inside an image?
Yes, well, it's also on the alpha stage, but if we're talking about static creatives, yes, we do have the separate flow with AI generated static creatives. Simply the flows works with the same thing like I show in the Figma plugin, but it's a bit of a different. For example, if we have AI generated static creatives, the first line is to delete the text. It's not delete, to extract this text. When you extract this text to Kraken, it pushes to localization, do the localization job. And the second manual work, automatic work here, runs with LLM agents like Nana Banana. Nana Banana, for example, just like cutting off and disappearing with all the text on the source image. So it regenerates the image, but without the text. And when the localization is done in the Kraken, it just like pushes back to Nana Banana, and Nana Banana generates new image with the proper text, with the proper localized text for in German, French, Italian, and it just like puts into the source design of this creatives, just fits perfectly. And we are in the process of testing this approach. It works not perfectly well, but yes, we do have such kind of a pipelines too for AI created static creatives too.
I think stability is the main challenge here and scale, of course.
Yeah.
That's it. The Kraken logo is very much appreciated on YouTube.
Thank you.
Pavel,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. This brings to an end the free part of the conference this morning or afternoon if you're in Europe. For those that are interested in some N8 magic, we are jumping over into the workshops, and I'm looking forward to entertain you there as we speak. Quick reminder, we have a third day of presentations tomorrow with more innovations from Dave and Jourik, and the conclusion of the hackathon and some more presentations as well. We look forward to seeing you there, and I look forward to seeing you for an N8N workshop on the other side.
Absolutely. Stefan, that was a cool day again. Thanks a lot, Maria, as well. That was excellent. Thanks for our audience on YouTube for bearing with us. We had a good, stable team of people looking, watching, commenting. So thanks a lot. And guys, see you tomorrow. Subscribe, get notified, 2:30 CT. That's the time. And we will see us tomorrow for the deploy third day of the conference.
Over the past 2 days, we had the privilege of seeing some remarkable innovation from across the localization industry. Thank you to every company and team that shared their ideas, experiments, and real-life experiences during the Innovation Challenge. As this year's sponsor for Innovation Challenge, we're proud to support a community that's actively building the future of localization. So from all of us at POEditor, thank you for inspiring us, and congratulations to everyone who took part.